What's up, everybody? We're here with another daily coding challenge on FreeCodeCamp.org. Go to curriculum page, check out the Try Coding Challenge of the Day, go to the archive, and we're doing the August 13th challenge, Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is a series of numbers where each number is the sum of the two preceding ones. When starting with 0 and 1, the first 10 numbers of the sequence are 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34. So you see that we start with 0 and 1, we add them together, we get 1. And then we add those together, we get 2. And then we add those together, we get 3, and so on. Given an array containing the first two numbers of a Fibonacci sequence and an integer representing the length of the sequence, return an array containing the sequence of the given length. So we have a start sequence, that'll be the first two numbers of our sequence. So it might be 3 and 5. And if it was, then we would add those together and start that pattern, that Fibonacci sequence pattern, up to the length parameter. We have three constraints. Your function should handle sequences of any length greater than or equal to 0. If the length is 0, return an empty array and note that the starting numbers are part of the sequence. Okay. So there's one constraint I could get out of the way right away, is if the length is 0. Return an empty array. And you know, if I was writing this code for like a project or something like that, and this was JavaScript, I'm not even using TypeScript, I think I would defer to using a truthy check because 0 is falsy. So since 0 can resolve to false if given the not operator, whatever you want to call this, the bang, then we're going to get an empty array. But also if length is null, if length is some other value that could be interpreted as falsy, then we'll also just return with an empty string because the length isn't valid, right? I think I would start with just having a sequence array that we fill up because this is what we're going to be returning, right? We return an array that is the sequence, the Fibonacci sequence of numbers. And now we just have to populate that sequence of numbers. Equally, we know that the start sequence is going to be in the sequence. So I can spread, using the spread operator, I can spread that into the sequence that we're going to be working with. Now we are assured that the first two numbers are taken care of. Now I can loop through starting at 1 because we already have the first two items in the array. We already have 0 and 1. And then we can loop through the length value -1. I'm doing that because we don't want to add the last item. Like we don't want to end it with an additional result. And you'll see what I mean in a second if what I have in my head is going to work out the way I think. We have our sequence array and we need to push something into it. That will be a new value, which is the sequence at index I plus the sequence at index I -1. Right? So the first iteration, let's say we're getting start sequence is 0 and 1, and our length is 10, like the little example in the description. When we start iterating, we'll already have 0 and 1 in the array, the sequence array we're working with. We'll start at index 1, which is the value 1. And we will add the value 1 with the value 0 at index 0. And then we will push that into the array. On the next iteration, we will have value 1 at index 2 and value 1 at index 1. That'll make 2. We'll push it into the array. Then we have 2 and we add it to 1. And so kicks off that pattern. Let's look through these test cases we have here. I could see we're going to have a problem with this one. A length value of 1 won't get caught with this check, and it will result in an array with both of the starting items. And really, they just want that first item. Length of 1, they just want the first starting item. So, I mean, keep it simple and just check the length is greater than or equal to 2. Then we will add the full starting sequence to the array to begin with. Otherwise, we'll add just that first item in the start sequence to the array. I think that would probably do it. I don't see any other edge cases right off the bat. But let's see what happens when I submit this. So you ready? Hold your breath. All right. That was solution. Pretty simple. I think just a little touch up. If I wasn't explaining this and I was just coding this on my own, I would just put it inline into the push call. And yeah, that should work. I can't imagine a more performant way to do it right off the bat, but this is one where the Fibonacci sequence and like mathematical sequences and things like that, there has been someone really brilliant out there, a million very brilliant math people out there that have found really performant solutions to code them. So for the Fibonacci sequence, I mean, it's such a famous math and science concept that I am sure there is a really performant way to do this, even in JavaScript, which is probably beyond my capacity right now, but it might be worth looking up. So thanks very much for watching. That was the solution for the August 13th FreeCodeCamp Daily Coding Challenge Fibonacci sequence. I'll talk at you later.